Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. Pakistan says it highlighted the Kashmir and Palestine issues globally at all levels in 2020. Foreign Office spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry said this at a weekly press briefing in Islamabad. He said it was due to Pakistan's efforts that the UN told India to respect human rights in occupied Kashmir. He said Pakistan played a key role in the Afghan peace process. Iran says the recent show of force in the Persian Gulf by the US has worsened security situation of the region. In a letter to the UN Security Council, Ambassador Ishaq al-Habib said Tehran does not seek war but will defend its security and vital interests. Tensions have escalated ahead of the first anniversary of the US assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. The United Kingdom has formally ended its partnership with the European Union as the one-year transition period for Brexit ends. The trade deal agreed last week will ensure no import taxes or tariffs on goods crossing between Britain and the continent. But there will be new customs rules and checks for the country to adopt. The World Health Organization has listed the Pfizer and BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for emergency use. The US death toll has crossed 345,000, but the infections are approaching the 20 million mark. While in Pakistan, the virus has claimed 71 lives and infected over 2,400 people overnight. The country's death toll is over 10,100, while the tally of infections has topped 482,000. Globally, there are more than 1.8 million deaths and 83 million cases. "25 people have been killed in the Democratic Republic of Congo's troubled Beni regions. Officials say the civilians were working in the fields when they were ambushed by the ADF militia. The Pakistan Cricket Board has named Babar Azam as the most valuable cricketer of the year for his stellar performance across all formats during 2020. All-rounder Alia Riaz was declared the cricketer of the year in the women's category. Those are the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Pakistan says it highlighted the Kashmir and Palestine issues globally at all levels in 2020. Foreign Office spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry said this at a weekly press briefing in Islamabad. He said it was due to Pakistan's efforts that the UN told India to respect human rights in occupied Kashmir. He added that the OIC also reaffirmed its unequivocal support for the Kashmir cause. He said Pakistan presented a dossier to expose India's state sponsorship of terrorism against Pakistan. The spokesperson said Pakistan played a key role in the Afghan peace process. Earlier, the Foreign Office said Pakistan and India have exchanged lists of their nuclear installations and strategic facilities. This is the part of an agreement which restricts the two countries from attacking each other's atomic facilities in case of war. Tensions between the two countries are on the rise over a range of issues, including Kashmir and India's repeated ceasefire violations at the LOC. Pakistan has urged the United Nations to stop India's systematic crackdown on the indigenous freedom struggle in Kashmir. Pakistan's ambassador Munir Akram said this in a letter to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Akram wrote that the UN must pressure Delhi to drop fake charges against activist Asiya Andarabi. He cited a real threat to her life as she has been under arrest on sedition charges since 2018. Hundreds of Kashmiri leaders and activists are languishing in jails since India revoked the occupied valleys status and imposed a curfew in August 2019. Nearly 300 people have been killed by the occupation forces during the last year. An Indian state ruled by Narendra Modi's Hindu Nationalist Party has passed a law converting state-run Islamic schools into regular schools. The minister from Hindu Nationalist BJP says schools should be producing Muslim professional workers rather than future imams. Opposition politicians criticized the move and said it reflected the government's anti-Muslim attitude in the Hindu-majority country. Wajid Ali Chaudhary, a lawmaker from the opposition Congress party, said the government's idea is to wipe out Muslims. Under the law passed on Wednesday, over 700 schools in Assam will be shut by April. In India, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi says farmers don't trust Prime Minister Narendra Modi due to his long history of violence. In a tweet, he reiterated support for thousands of farmers protesting at Delhi borders for over a month against agricultural reforms. The protesters say there is no new year for them until the government repeal laws that only favor corporates. The government has held several rounds of talks with the farmer unions but failed to convince them to end their protest. The new reforms allow the government to stop buying grain at fixed prices, leaving farmers at the mercy of corporations. Iran says the United States' recent show of force in the Gulf has deteriorated the already tense security environment of the region. Tensions have escalated ahead of the first anniversary of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani's killing by the U.S. in Iraq. More in this report.
It's been almost a year since Iran's General Qasem Soleimani was killed by the U.S. in Iraq, pushing Tehran and Washington to the brink of war. Vying retaliation, Iran targeted several U.S. bases in Iraq throughout the year. Tensions are mounting once again with Washington announcing a nuclear submarine is being deployed to the Gulf. In another show of force meant to deter Iran, the U.S. flew strategic bombers over the Gulf for the second time this month. This follows President Donald Trump's remarks that he will hold Iran responsible for an attack on Americans. Enraged over Washington's latest measures, Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif says the U.S. is trying to fabricate a pretext for war. In a tweet, he said Iran will defend its people's security and vital interests. Meanwhile, Iran's prosecutor claims London-based security company G4S played a role in the killing of General Soleimani. However, the Pentagon decided to send home the only Navy aircraft carrier operating in the Middle East. This might help reduce tensions with Iran.
The U.S. has urged Twitter to act against threats by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps commander. In a tweet, State Department spokesperson Gail Brown called Ismail Qani's comments brazen acts of terrorism. Brown questioned the implementation of Twitter's terms of use to counter Qani's threats. Earlier, Qani threatened U.S. President, CIA director, and the other U.S. officials involved in the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. Qani said Iran will avenge the unjustly shed blood. Moving on, in Yemen, the Prime Minister has accused Iranian experts and Houthi militants of the deadly explosions at ADEN airport. At least 26 people were killed and more than 100 others injured in the three blasts. Ma'in Abdul Malik Saeed said the attacks were carried out with guided missiles. The findings were reported by a committee led by the Interior Minister Ibrahim Hadian. The UAE-backed Southern Transition Council has also blamed Iran-backed Houthis for the attack. Tehran says the terrible incident was a result of foreign occupation. The United Kingdom has finally ended its partnership with the European Union. This has marked the country's greatest shift on the global stage in modern times. More in this report.
As the clock struck 11 p.m. in London, the one-year transition period for Brexit came to an end, and the UK left the bloc's single market and customs union. The trade deal agreed last week will ensure no import taxes or tariffs on goods crossing between Britain and the continent. But there will be new custom rules and checks for the country to adopt. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says the move will set the country free to pursue new opportunities as an independent global power.
This is an amazing moment for this country. We have our freedom in our hands, and it is up to us to make the most of it. And I think it will be the overwhelming instinct of the people of this country to come together as one united kingdom, England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, working together to express our values around the world.
French President Emmanuel Macron bid farewell to the UK, saying it will remain a close ally of France. But critics believe Brexit will harm the country's economy and diminish its international standing. Some held a candlelit vigil in Brussels to mourn Britain's departure, finishing a relationship of almost half a century.
The World Health Organization has listed the Pfizer and BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for emergency use. The U.S. death toll has crossed 345,000, while the infections are approaching the 20 million mark. Globally, there are more than 1.8 million deaths and 83 million cases. More on the coronavirus in this report.
While the world rings in 2021, the coronavirus pandemic continues to wreak havoc across the globe. Today marks 1 year to the day that the World Health Organization first heeded the viral disease in China. The virus went on to kill millions of people and devastate the global economy since then. Over the year, the U.S. has been hit the hardest by the outbreak. Several states are shutting down prisons and moving inmates after a battering wave swept local jails. While President Donald Trump has extended bans on green cards and work visas through a large group of applicants to March 31st. And the New York City mayor has announced to vaccinate 1 million citizens in January.
The most important New Year's resolution I could possibly offer you in the month of January 2021, we will vaccinate 1 million New Yorkers. 1 million people we will reach in January. This city can do it. The amazing healthcare professionals of this city are ready.
England prepares to reopen its Nightingale field hospitals as a surge in cases of the new strain of coronavirus has put pressure on hospital beds. Scientists are still unsure about vaccine efficacy against the mutation first found in the UK. In Ireland, health officials say the situation is worse than the official figures. Meanwhile, China is the latest country to report cases of the new variant.
In Pakistan, 71 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This pushes the country's death toll to 10,176. Health officials reported 2,463 new infections overnight. Meanwhile, there are more than 34,000 active cases in the country. The health ministry says out of over 482,000 countrywide cases, more than 437,000 people have recovered. In Democratic Republic of Congo, 25 people have been killed in a suspected militia attack in the restive Beni region. Officials say the civilians were working in their fields when they were ambushed by the Allied Democratic Forces militia. They said the army found the dead bodies when they were chasing ADF fighters in the region. They said the incident happened on the eve of the new year. ADF is one of more than 100 militias that plague the eastern provinces of Congo. In Ethiopia, security forces have killed more than 75 civilians in one of the worst outbreaks of ethnic violence last year. In a report, the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission said another 30 people were beheaded, tortured or dragged in the streets by unknown militias. The commission said the widespread systematic attacks after the murder of a popular singer also injured over 500 civilians. Ethiopian government officials have not yet responded to the report. However, ethnic violence is a major challenge to the Nobel Peace Prize laureate, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Sudan says its army has retaken control over all lands along the border with Ethiopia. In a press briefing, Foreign Minister Omar Kamar ad-Din said the borders have already been drawn. He said Khartoum has not received anything official from Addis Ababa about not recognizing the borders. Ethiopia earlier threatened to launch a counteroffensive if Sudan does not stop expanding its territories. Tensions flared when Ethiopian farmers expelled Sudanese from the disputed Al-Fashqa region. Khartoum also accused Ethiopian forces and militias of ambushing Sudanese troops along the border. In Algeria, at least 20 people have been killed and 11 injured after a vehicle overturned in the south. Authorities say the accident occurred on a key transit route for illegal migrants near Mali's border. The pickup truck carrying the passengers has been destroyed completely. Algeria has been an influx of sub-Saharan migrants in recent years, many pouring across the country's southern border. Migrants use Algeria as transit to reach the Mediterranean and then cross into Europe. It's time for a short break. I will be back with more stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back. At the onset of 2021, world leaders have sent their people messages of hope and courage after a difficult year wrecked by the pandemic. More in this report.
The world is bidding a hearty farewell to 2020 without the usual fanfare and public gatherings because of the novel coronavirus pandemic. World leaders are wishing all a year full of peace and kindness. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden says he's looking forward to a year that heals and unites people. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson says the nation rediscovered a spirit of togetherness despite the loss of so many lives due to the virus. He said Britain celebrated health workers and braved the biggest crisis in generations. Russia's President Vladimir Putin thanked frontline medical workers, hoping that the world will defeat COVID-19. China's Xi Jinping resolved to move towards a goal of common prosperity with perseverance and courage. Pakistan's President Alvi remembered the plight of Kashmiris and Palestinian Muslims on the advent of the new year. And Prime Minister Imran Khan said the new year will be a year of economic growth for Pakistan.
Australia has changed the wording of its national anthem to recognize the indigenous people of the land. At a news conference, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Australia is a timeless land of ancient nations. Morrison said the change is for the people of all the political views. Rights groups have struggled for decades to reconcile with the indigenous Aborigines people, whose arrival dates back some 50,000 years. Each year, Australians celebrate the national holiday as the first fleet on the 26th of January, while indigenous people refer to it as the Invasion Day. On the first day of 2021, the air pollution level in New Delhi stood in the very poor category. The overall air quality index was recorded at 332. The visibility has dropped due to cooler temperatures and low wind speeds that let deadly pollutants hang in the air. New Delhi has the worst air quality of any capital city in the world. A raging coronavirus pandemic has also heightened alarm over the health hazard posed by the choking smoke. From the highways to the skies, Pakistan's world-famous truck art has gone airborne. More on the evolving art in this report.
Pakistani truck art is one of the country's best-known cultural exports. Paintings on wide-ranging themes with vibrant color palettes have inspired galleries and prompted stores all over the world to sell miniatures. After decorating the Pakistani highways for decades, the art is now set to grace the wings, tails, and cabins of aeroplanes, as the Flying Academy is painting a two-seater Cessna aircraft with a colorful technique.
As I mentioned, we have 8 aeroplanes and we have planned some library or another for different aeroplanes, and these are ideas with regards to like promoting the tourism for the country and promoting the software image.
Trained by his father, Haider Ali is one of the most prominent truck painters in Pakistan. Haider has been decorating trucks since his childhood. He's dispensing invaluable knowledge to his students now.
This is a fabulous experience. My students also got a chance to learn. It is a new thing for us. My students and I are enjoying this experience. There is not much difference between a truck and an airplane. I have always wanted to paint an aircraft, and God fulfilled my wish.
Over the years, the truck art has also served as an important, bold, and visible medium of expressing diverse voices on multiple socio-political issues, home and abroad.
In China, new delisting rules have taken effect at the Shanghai and the Shenzhen Stock Exchange. These are the most stringent regulations in history. Officials say rules aim at improving the quality of listed companies and boosting investment. Companies will be automatically delisted if their shares trade below 15 US cents for 20 consecutive trading days, or their market value falls below $46 million for 20 straight days. The new rules reduce the investigation period of financial fraud from 3 years to 2 years and reduce the proportion of fraud funds by half. The Pakistan Cricket Board has named skipper Babar Azam as the most valuable cricketer of the year for his stellar performance across all formats during 2020. The 26-year-old was also declared the white ball cricketer of the year after averaging 110.5 and 55.2 runs in the ODIs and T20 internationals. For women's team, the PCB awarded all-rounder Alia Riaz the title of the Women's Cricketer of the Year, while 19-year-old Fatima Sana was chosen as the Women's Emerging Cricketer of the Year. In the National Basketball Association, Chicago Bulls beat the Washington Wizards 133-130 to earn a sweep of the team's back-to-back series. Otto Porter Jr. had 28 points and 12 rebounds, while Zach Levine added 22 points to lead their team to victory. This was Washington's 5th consecutive defeat. The Bulls managed to win the game despite losing 4 players to health and safety protocols due to the coronavirus. The Bulls are set to take on the Milwaukee Bucks and then host the Dallas Mavericks on Sunday. Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton has been knighted in the Queen's New Year honours list. The Briton sealed a 7 drivers title at the Turkish Grand Prix in November, equaling Michael Schumacher's championships record. Hamilton, who had previously been made a member of British Empire, has become the 4th F1 driver to be knighted. He has now joined the ranks of Sir Jack Brabham, Sir Sterling Moss and 3-time world champion Stewart. Hamilton has not resided permanently in the United Kingdom since 2007, and his knighthood was included on the diplomatic and overseas list. Manchester United's Edinson Cavani has been given a 3-match ban for an offensive social media post. He has also been slapped with a £100,000 fine. The Uruguayan pleaded guilty to a Football Association charge of using insulting or improper words. Cavani sent the message after scoring a winner at Southampton on the 29th of November. The striker subsequently deleted the post and apologized when the meaning that could be attached was pointed out. Along with the ban and fine, Cavani must also complete a face-to-face education program. Another weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.